The Young and the Restless spoilers shattered innocence and the battle for truth, a Genoa City chronicle in the turbulent heart of Genoa City, where secrets fester and allegiances are as transient as the morning mist. A new scandal has erupted, a scandal that threatens to upend long-held beliefs and shatter the fragile equilibrium among its inhabitants. The latest twist in an already convoluted saga centers on Sharon, a woman whose name has become synonymous with betrayal, and the bitter fallout that ensues when the truth is finally set free. The vindication that unleashed fury. It all began when authorities, after months of relentless investigation, finally exonerated Sharon of a crime that had haunted her every waking moment. The charge? The murder of Heather, a case that had long been a thorn in the side of those who sought justice for the innocent. For years, Sharon had been condemned, her face etched into the collective memory as that of a cold-blooded killer. But now, in a turn of events that left many in a state of disbelief, the verdict declared her innocent. The courtroom buzzed with whispers and incredulous stares as the news broke. Among those most incensed was Phyllis, whose fury knew no bounds. To Phyllis, Sharon's exoneration was not merely a miscarriage of justice, it was an affront to the memory of Heather, a victim who had suffered in silence. Phyllis's anger was palpable. In her eyes, Sharon had evaded the consequences of her actions. How could the system allow someone so dangerous to be cleared, especially when the evidence pointed in another direction? It was a decision that defied logic and left a trail of disillusionment in its wake. Heather's tragic tale, a victim unwittingly ensnared. The tragedy of Heather's death was compounded by the mystery that still shrouded it. For those who truly knew the depth of Heather's despair, the circumstances of her demise were heart-wrenching. It was widely believed that Sharon, driven by malevolent intent, had broken into Daniel's house, a dark act that spiraled into violence and ultimately claimed Heather's life. Had Sharon not intruded with such sinister motives, Heather might still be alive, free from the shadow of a violent end she never saw coming. Heather, in her innocence, was an unwitting casualty, a victim ensnared in a web of deceit and ill intent. The tragedy of her death resonated deeply with many, igniting a fervor among those who had once championed justice on her behalf. Phyllis and Daniel, both of whom had their own reasons for despising Sharon, found their resolve hardened by the injustice done to Heather. They believed that Sharon's actions were unforgivable and that true retribution was long overdue. Their collective outrage became a rallying cry, one that sought not only to condemn Sharon but to ensure that those responsible for the miscarriage of justice were brought to account. A confession that turned the tide. As if the chaos surrounding Sharon's exoneration weren't enough, the revelation that followed sent shockwaves through Genoa City. In an unexpected twist, both Ian Ward and Jordan, two figures whose names had been entangled with the mystery of Heather's death, stepped forward to confess their involvement. They admitted, one after the other, that they had been the true perpetrators behind Heather's murder. This startling confession, made under the weight of mounting evidence and personal guilt, shifted the entire narrative. Suddenly, the once unassailable notion of Sharon's guilt was thrown into disarray, leaving behind only the bitter taste of betrayal and the cry of justice unfulfilled. For many, the confession was too little, too late. The courtroom, once again, became a stage for bitter confrontations and moral outrage. Phyllis and Daniel, who had never truly forgiven Sharon, now found themselves facing the disturbing reality that justice had been perverted not by one individual, but by a tangled web of deceit and manipulation. The confession vindicated Sharon in the eyes of the law, but it did little to assuage the deep-seated revulsion felt by those who believed that Heather's death should have never been allowed to fade into obscurity. The unyielding voice of discontent. In the aftermath of these revelations, the atmosphere in Genoa City grew even more charged. Phyllis's fury was not an isolated sentiment, it resonated with others who had long harbored a sense of injustice over the handling of Heather's case. The fact that Sharon was now legally declared innocent felt like a slap in the face to every memory of Heather's suffering. For those who had once rallied behind the call for true accountability, this development was intolerable, a reminder that in the battle for truth, even the most damning evidence could be overturned by shifting allegiances and ulterior motives. Phyllis and Daniel, bound by their shared sense of loss and betrayal, refused to let Sharon's exoneration be the end of the story. They vowed to continue their pursuit of justice, determined to expose every hidden layer of deceit that had led to this travesty. In their eyes, Sharon's clearance was not a victory, it was a calamity, a prelude to further erosion of the values they held dear. They argued that true justice would only be served if those who had taken Heather's life paid the ultimate price, regardless of the courtroom's pronouncements. A beacon of hope amidst the chaos while the drama surrounding Sharon, Heather, Phyllis, Daniel, Ian Ward, and Jordan ignited passions and deepened wounds, not all was lost in the storm of betrayal and retribution. In a quieter corner of Genoa City, another narrative unfolded, a story of love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. Chloe, a steadfast friend and confidant, found solace in the blossoming romance between Sally and Billy. Chloe had long witnessed the tumultuous paths that both Sally and Billy had traversed. Each had endured heartbreak, the scars of past loves, and the bitter aftermath of betrayal. Their journeys had been fraught with pain, leaving them wary of opening their hearts to love once more. Yet, against all odds, a fragile but genuine connection had begun to bloom between them. For Chloe, this was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in a city as scarred and conflicted as Genoa City, love could still find a way to heal and transform. Chloe's joy was unbridled as she watched Sally and Billy take tentative steps toward a future together. She knew the price they had paid for love, the sacrifices made in the name of passion, and the wounds that time had yet to fully heal. But she also knew that every victory in love required strength, a strength that Sally and Billy were slowly but surely cultivating. Their relationship, though tender and nascent, was a testament to the human spirit's capacity to overcome despair. Chloe encouraged them to hold fast to their newfound happiness, to nurture it with the same fierce determination they had once applied to surviving their darkest days. The call to endure in the grand tapestry of Genoa City, where every thread of love and hate was interwoven with ambition and regret, two stories emerged as testaments to the city's dual nature. On one side, the legacy of Heather's tragic death and Sharon's subsequent vindication served as a stark reminder of how fragile justice could be when manipulated by power and deceit. On the other, the budding romance between Sally and Billy, under Chloe's watchful and hopeful gaze, offered a glimpse of redemption, a belief that love, when nurtured by strength and perseverance, could triumph over even the most formidable obstacles. The battles being waged in the halls of power and the hearts of those caught in the crossfire were far from over. Phyllis and Daniel, still seething with indignation at the perceived injustice, plotted their next moves with a determination to ensure that Heather's memory would not be tarnished by an unworthy absolution. They saw Sharon's exoneration not as the final word but as a challenge, a call to expose every hidden truth and rectify every wrong. Meanwhile, Chloe's gentle optimism provided a counterbalance to the bitterness that threatened to engulf Genoa City. As she watched Sally and Billy grow stronger together, she was reminded that amidst the chaos of betrayal, there existed the possibility of healing and renewal. Love, in its purest form, was not about erasing the scars of the past but about finding the courage to move forward despite them. A city poised on the edge, the events that had unfolded over the past weeks left Genoa City in a state of flux. With Sharon's name finally cleared by the confessions of Ian Ward and Jordan, a seismic shift in public sentiment was inevitable. Many struggled to reconcile the legal declaration of her innocence with the haunting memories of Heather's untimely demise. The ensuing debates, both in hushed whispers over coffee and in the fiery exchanges on social media, were a testament to the unresolved tensions that simmered beneath the city's polished facade. At the same time, the renewed hope represented by Sally and Billy's deepening relationship reminded everyone that even in the darkest of times, light could pierce through the gloom. Their love was a fragile yet powerful antidote to the cynicism that had long gripped Genoa City, a city where every smile carried the weight of sorrow, yet every tear held the promise of a better tomorrow. The road ahead, as the dust settled on the courtroom drama and the personal battles waged in its wake, one question remained at the forefront of every mind. What would Genoa City look like tomorrow? Would the revelations and confessions lead to a genuine reckoning, one that restored faith in justice and honor the memory of a lost soul like Heather? Or would the unyielding thirst for retribution, fueled by decades of ambition and betrayal, continue to tear the community apart? For Phyllis and Daniel, the path forward was clear. They vowed to keep fighting, to ensure that every stone was turned in their quest for true accountability. Their resolve was unshakable, even as they grappled with the reality that Sharon's legal vindication was a bitter pill to swallow, a reminder that in a world ruled by power, the truth was often the first casualty. Yet amid the tumult, Chloe's unwavering support for Sally and Billy shone as a beacon of hope. She believed that if they could learn to be strong together, to draw strength from each other's resilience, then perhaps Genoa City itself could begin to heal. Love, she argued, was the salve for even the deepest wounds, and every new beginning was a chance to rewrite the narrative of a city long marred by tragedy. As dawn broke over Genoa City, its streets and buildings stood as silent witnesses to the relentless march of time, a time that promised change, retribution, and perhaps even redemption. The players in this unfolding drama were all too aware that every choice they made would echo into the future, shaping destinies and redefining legacies. For now, the truth had been laid bare, and the fight for justice was far from over. In the end, the saga of Sharon's exoneration, Heather's untimely death, and the indomitable spirit of those left behind served as a poignant reminder that even in a world rife with betrayal and despair, the human heart could still find the strength to love, to forgive, and to rise again. And as Genoa City braced itself for whatever came next, one thing was undeniable: amidst the chaos, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow remained steadfast. Epilogue. The duality of destiny in the intertwining lives of those who call Genoa City home. Every victory is hard-won and every defeat sears the soul. While the bitter echoes of betrayal and retribution resounded in the corridors of power, a quieter, more tender revolution was taking root in the hearts of those who dared to dream of love and healing. Phyllis and Daniel's relentless pursuit of justice, juxtaposed with Chloe's nurturing hope for Sally and Billy's future, epitomized the eternal struggle between darkness and light, a struggle that, despite its many scars, continued to define the human spirit. For now, the city stands poised on the edge of transformation. The wounds of the past may never fully heal, but in every broken heart, there is a seed of resilience waiting to bloom. And as the residents of Genoa City face the uncertain road ahead, they do so with the understanding that while the truth may be painful, it is also the first step toward forging a future where justice, love, and redemption can finally coexist in harmony. In this relentless pursuit of both retribution and renewal, the battle for truth and love rages on, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A web of deception, Nate's betrayal and Victor's uncertain fate. Genoa City is no stranger to treachery, but Nate Hastings never expected the biggest betrayal of his life to come from within his own family. The man he had always believed was his brother was nothing more than a fraud, a manipulative imposter who had infiltrated his life with one goal in mind, taking everything he had. And Amy? She wasn't just an accomplice. She was the mastermind behind it all. Nate's nightmare, the truth unveiled for months. Nate had sensed something was off. Small inconsistencies in their stories, subtle shifts in their behavior, but nothing concrete enough to suspect outright deception. He had trusted them both, confided in them, welcomed them into his life as family. But family doesn't lie. Family doesn't scheme to steal everything you've worked for. And yet, that was exactly what had happened. The truth, when it finally came to light, hit Nate like a freight train. The man he had considered a brother wasn't his brother at all. He was a calculated imposter, someone who had studied every detail of Nate's past, learned every nuance of his supposed identity, and manipulated his way into Nate's trust, all for the sake of money and power. And then there was Amy. She was no innocent bystander in this deception. She was the architect, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. Her ambitions weren't small. She didn't just want a portion of Nate's wealth, she wanted it all. She wanted to bring him to his knees, strip him of everything he owned, and watch the Winters empire collapse beneath her feet. But why? What drove Amy to launch such an elaborate and ruthless con? Was it revenge? Greed? Or something even more personal? Nate didn't have those answers yet. But one thing was certain, he had been blindsided, and now it was time to fight back. Amy's plan, will she succeed? Amy was patient. She had played the long game, carefully weaving herself into Nate's world, manipulating his emotions, exploiting his blind spots. Her next move was simple: take everything. She wanted his fortune. She wanted control over his assets. And more than anything, she wanted to crush the Winters family, a dynasty she clearly had a deep-seated grudge against. But could she really pull it off? The problem with con artists is that they believe they are always the smartest person in the room. Amy had underestimated Nate once before, believing he was weak, naive, easily manipulated. But now? He knew the truth. And if she thought she could continue playing him for a fool, she was about to realize just how wrong she was. Because Nate wasn't going down without a fight. Victor's fate. The Newman family waits in suspense while Nate was dealing with the biggest betrayal of his life. Another storm was brewing in Genoa City. Victor Newman still had not woken up. The Newman patriarch, the man who had built an empire through sheer willpower and ruthless ambition, now lay motionless, unresponsive, and trapped between life and death. And the question on everyone's mind was simple: will he wake up? Or is this the end of Victor Newman? Fans, including myself, have been holding our breath, anxiously awaiting any news about Eric Braden's future on The Young and the Restless. There are rumors, speculations, whispers that Eric Braden might be leaving the show permanently. And while it pains many to even think about a YNR without Victor Newman, the reality is undeniable. Eric Braden is not a young man anymore. His dedication to this role, his legendary status on the show, and his unwavering presence as the backbone of the Newman family have cemented him as one of the greatest soap opera actors of all time. But at what cost? Acting is demanding. The long hours, the relentless filming schedule, it takes a toll, even on the strongest. If Eric and his family decide it's time for him to step away, then we, as fans who love and respect him, must also respect his choice. He has given us decades of brilliance. If his health no longer allows him to continue, then he deserves to rest.